All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our special presentation for Earth Day with a collaboration with OCEARCH. So we're very excited to have them joining us and share with you a little bit about their work, how they incorporate education into it, and how you can make a difference this Earth Day by doing some of your own investigations. So to get things started a little bit, tell you briefly just a tiny bit about OCEARCH in case you don't know. So OCEARCH is an organization that is also a nonprofit, and they do research on sharks. So the very first person that we're going to welcome is one of our actually featured Lunch for the Scientist. And what's exciting about her talk is it is bilingual. So we have a full Spanish version of her talk, including an activity. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Giselle Montaneau from SeaWorld. Hi, Giselle.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much for taking time to share your research. So if you can just go ahead and briefly tell everyone a little bit about what you do, and then you can go ahead through your presentation.
Okay, so I work for SeaWorld in Orlando, and I'm going to talk to all of you today about what I do, which is studying reproduction. So today it's only in sharks. Um, I am Brazilian, and I studied in Mexico. I went to vet school in Mexico, and then I did my master's degree in the US. So I have always liked science. I have always liked animals, but I never imagined working with sharks. So I always say, like, working with sharks is a present that life gave me. And also everything I do, like, it's with a lot of passion and a lot of love for animals. So, like I said before, I am a veterinarian, but I do research mainly, and I work at SeaWorld in Orlando. I have worked in San Diego too. I do work in Texas, and one of the things that I do in the research is go and join the expeditions with OCEARCH. So then I am able to examine some of the white sharks. And why is it important to do this work of studying reproduction in sharks? So when I do these exams, reproductive exams, they help us to gather information about the reproductive biology of the animals. And when we have this information, then they help us to answer questions like what is the age when the animals are mature, if they are oviparous, ovoviviparous, or viviparous. So if they lay eggs, if the eggs they hatch inside the uterus and then the animals give birth, or if they have a structure that is like a placenta and then they just give birth to pups. So there are different types of reproduction in sharks, and we can answer one of those main questions, right? So also, how long does it take for these hatchlings to hatch? How long is the pregnancy, right? And where they give birth, and if they are seasonal, so it happens any time of the year, or is there a few months during the year that's the time that they use to reproduce, and when do they do it? So that's the type of questions that I'm trying to help to answer. And I'm going to talk about three tools that I use to do these exams. So one of them is the ultrasound. So the ultrasound, when I use it in here in the parks, I added two pictures from the animals that I have worked with here at the park. The first picture is a white spotted bamboo shark. So that's a small shark. They get to be like 90 centimeters, so not even like basically 3 foot long, not very long. They're very small. And in the first picture below it is the image of an ultrasound, and you can see the egg capsule and the egg yolk inside. So, and in the picture below that is the image of the ovaries, the the ovary. Sharks usually have just one ovary on the right side, and then they are filled with this vitellogenic material. So it's like a yolk. It's really just like yolk, like birds. And we can see what is happening inside the body. Okay, so this is why ultrasound is very, very important. In the middle, the middle picture is a sand tiger shark. So then we can do it. It's a larger shark. It's about 2 to 2.2 meters long, and we can also do ultrasound on them. And in this one, it's a female. And in the first picture of the ultrasound, there in the middle, is the uterus is filled with fluid, and in this case the female had a lot of egg cases. So this is different. So this is a different type of reproduction. And then below that, it's ovary and then some liver. And you can see that it's very difficult to differentiate the organs. It can be very difficult, and you need a lot of practice. But working often with these animals and doing my research, I was able to learn to do this and able to learn to do ultrasound in sharks because I had a lot of experience working with other species like dolphins. And then I started to research sharks too, from like 5-6 years ago, I think I started. And then the third picture is on the OCEARCH platform that is next. The ship has a platform where we can bring the white sharks, and then the platform lifts up, and then you're not in the water, you're in a safe place. The animal, when you turn a shark upside down, it goes into a mode that is called tonic immobility. So then the shark stops moving. And as you can see, those 3 sharks, different sizes, and they all do the same thing. And then you can do the exams, and you can turn again the shark and then release the shark, and the shark's going to swim. There is no problem with that. And it's very good for us researchers because then we are able to get all the samples that we want. And in this case, I'm doing an ultrasound in a white shark. I am able to see the ovaries. I can see uterus too. So far, we have not seen any kind of eggs inside the uterus or any kind of fetus. There is no pups inside. So far, I have not been able to see that in adult female. But I see the ovary, and since I am doing the ultrasound for the reproductive organs, I can also do an ultrasound of the heart. I can see the stomach, the intestine. So sharks have a special intestine. It's called a spiral colon. And it's just one of the adaptations that they have to live in the water and to maximize their metabolism. So then this way they absorb a lot of nutrients from the food that they eat. So I can see all that with the ultrasound. And this data that we get, all this information serves as a baseline. We get all this data, and now we know how these animals are, this population are in the places where we get them, because this is a migratory species. So we also, when we go on the expeditions, we go in different places, different times of the year where they are, and they eat different things. So it's very nice to be able to do the ultrasound and see how they are doing in the inside. It's just a complementary exam for a health assessment, but also for reproduction. It's very important. So this is another example, and this is the view of the white spotted bamboo shark, and the same image of the egg. And then on the right there is the egg. I'm holding the one egg, and you can see it has it's a kind of a rigid egg capsule with the egg yolk. You can see the egg yolk perfectly. And then the capsule, it's like leather. It's kind of rigid. So then it's very nice to see in the ultrasound. You see the fluid, you see the yolk, You even see the capsule, how you can see everything. And then in the lower row, we have a picture of a sand tiger shark, and then the ultrasound of the uterus with the eggs. And those eggs are different. So they are smaller. The capsule, it's much thinner, and then we have a little bit, like a little bit of yolk that constitute the whole egg. So this is a different kind of reproduction. Sand tiger sharks, they have two uteruses, and they one of the eggs that are fertile, they have many eggs that can be fertile, and then they can have a lot of embryos inside the uterus. But as they are growing, only one embryo is going to survive, because this one is going to eat all these eggs. So because they have to ingest all this yolk, because it's very caloric, it's very good for them, and this is what makes them grow. But also only in this species is the one of the embryos is going to eat also the siblings. So you have a lot of them, and then only is going to survive in one side, and then the other one in the other side, because they have two uteruses. And then the female is going to actually give birth to the pups. Okay, so this is just a parenthesis, because this is very interesting for the species. So they have very different types of reproduction. It's very different. There are more than 500 different species of sharks. So they are, oh, it's missing a picture here, but maybe is in the next slide. No. Okay. So the other tool that we use, the other thing that we do, is to get a blood sample. Okay. So when we get a blood sample from the shark that is in the platform, it's for health assessment. We can do hemogram, we can do chemistry, we can see how if there is contaminants, we can see what they ate, if they ate recently. So we can tell a lot of things about their health. But also, if you centrifuge the sample, the blood sample, then you can separate. All the cells are going to be, because they are heavy, they're going to be in the bottom of the tube. And then on the top part, like in the picture, you get this fluid, this transparent fluid. Well, that's plasma. So in that plasma, we can freeze, and later on, we can assess and see if there is any reproductive hormone in there. So then estrogens, progesterone, or testosterone, these are the things we are able to see. Do they have estrogens or progesterone? The males, do they have testosterone? Is it high? Is it low? What does that mean? You know, so if we have a female with high estrogens, well, that means the ovary, it should be active. How was it in the ultrasound? Oh, maybe in the ultrasound you could see the follicles, you can see the vitellogenic follicles, and did we see the uterus? And because that's around reproduction time, right? And then if the males, they have high testosterone, well, maybe they are producing spermatozoa. So this is the time that they are going to mate. So everything starts to get in place, and then we know more about reproduction. So the third thing that we do is to get a semen sample. For that, we need a mature male. And I have two pictures here. One is the sand tiger shark. On the right, we have a white shark. It's just for purposes of comparison, because white sharks, they're really much larger animals than the ones that we are used to work here at the park. They have claspers. So you have to open the cloaca and separate the claspers. As you can see, the claspers, they are modifications of the pelvic fins. And then when you separate in the cloaca, you're going to see a papilla. And I put a picture of what I use to collect the samples. So I use a catheter, a rub catheter that is connected to a syringe. I introduce through the papilla, and then I can aspirate the sample. And once I have the sperm sample, I go to the laboratory. So then on OCEARCH, we also have a laboratory in there. So we can access the sample on the same day. And we can see it in the microscope. And what we are going to see, the first thing is the morphology, which shape it has, how it looks, because there's two pictures that I put it in this slide. The top picture is from a white-spotted bamboo shark. The bottom picture is from a nurse shark, because they are very different. So shark sperm, they have a very elongated head, and it's like a corkscrew, but the girdles, they can be different, like in number and in size, as you can see. So with morphology, this is the things we are going to assess, and if it has a bent head or if it has a micro head. It's all, they can be different. So normal versus abnormal. We can see motility. So motility is we're going to assess, are they moving? So are they moving? Are they going forward, or they're just kind of shaking in the same place? How they are moving, they're going straight, so forward but straight, or they are going to do like a loop, they're going to swim in a spiral. So those things are very important. And then viability is to see if we separated them like in live dead, but it's the integrity of the membrane. So is the membrane, is it okay, the membrane, or is there a problem? Are they dying over time? So we can use a dye and check that on a microscope too. And also concentration. So concentration is going to tell us how many cells are in that sample that we got. So we have to do a dilution. And then on the other picture that I added there is a big square. So we have to count squares in the special slide that we use. And then we use a formula, and it's going to give us the result of the total amount of cells in that sample. When we do research, we can help conservation too. So we always say that for our animals here at the park, we use them as a model to study them, because they are here. We can see them. We can see their whole body. We can. We know their behavior. We know if there is a change in behavior. We can get blood every month during a year, or every week during a small period of time. We can get feces, we can get urines. So we can really study the animals that we have, and then build this database. And then, like I said before, we can help to answer these questions. Do we see them mating all year long, or only in a period of time? Which season of the year? When they reach sexual maturity? So then when they are ready to have offspring, when they are 4 years old, or 10 or 15, and then how many pups they are going to have, and how long is the pregnancy? So we have animals here, and we know this. We are able to answer these questions for the different species that we have. And when we have this information, what is very nice is that we can help to protect the animals that are living in the wild. So then we can make laws for the protection of the habitats. And usually the nurseries and the mating sites are the more delicate areas. So we need to know where they are. So then it's very nice that with OCEARCH we are able to do that, and we are able to follow the migratory pattern of the animals and detect where those events happen. Okay, so if we find a population that is in danger, we will be able to help, because we know how important those things are. And of course, education is very important. We need to educate the kids. We need to tell them about the animals that live in our planet. And one thing that I always like to point is and show everybody is this amazing shark that OCEARCH was able to get in 2020, and her name is it's a female, over 17 foot long, and her name is Nugumi. You pronounce Nugumi, even if you spell with a K. It's a local indigenous name that means grandmother, because we believe this animal is besides being the apex predator and and being this amazing mature female that probably had many, many pups, now many generations. So this is the example. This is what represents our oceans, and this is what we want to keep seeing, not just now but in the future, and that our kids and our grandkids can see animals just like this. And we are only be able to preserve these animals if we know about them. So this is all the research that we all do is about, to know about the animals so we can protect them. And this is the end of my presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Giselle. I love how you ended that on the note talking about Nagumi. Yes, Chris Fisher described her as like a grandmother of the sea many, many times. I think they estimated her to be, 50 years old?
More than that, even like between 60, even 70. She could be even 70 years old, and we want to see more animals like her.
Exactly. So I know they're out there looking right now. So, and Giselle, you will be on board next week, right?
I will be there on Tuesday.
Awesome. All right. So our next presenter we have is Tim from the Education Ambassador team. So Tim, go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do for OCEARCH, and then I will pull in a presentation as well.
Thank you, Jen. So I'm Tim Barker. I'm the Education Ambassador for OCEARCH. It's been a really exciting start to the year. We've been in classrooms across North America, from Alaska to Nova Scotia, Indiana, Ohio, and then plenty here in Florida, where I actually live right now. I started the Education Ambassador work just this year, following 4 expeditions with OCEARCH as Marine crew. So I got to spend a lot of time on the vessel itself, working, for people like Dr. Montano there. Got to spend a lot of time with her. She's a very wonderful person, and really just assisting with whatever I can in the research that they're doing. And really one of the four most important things that OCEARCH wants to do is to be able to take everything that the veterinarians, the doctors, the oceanographers, the marine scientists, all of them are learning aboard this vessel and putting it out there into the world to world leading scientists that aren't out on these field expeditions, but also straight into the classroom. Everything goes from the ship to a student's desk as soon as possible. So there's been a lot of really cool updates in that kind of world there. That skipped a few pages. No, well, yeah, so basically there's a holistic approach that OCEARCH has here. You're going to do your multi-institutional scientists. These are folks like Dr. Montano, who come out from SeaWorld, other partners like North Carolina Aquarium. We've got visitors from them, Georgia Aquarium and New York Aquarium, SeaWorld, all over the place. Dr. Nigel Hussey from up in Canada has a couple representatives with them this year as well. They do biologger packages, which is very detailed research in tracking. And I'm going to talk more about the tracking as well and why that's been important to us. And basically that's going to go out there on the expeditions, do the public awareness. So a lot of that is going to be releasing peer-reviewed papers. This is going to be the multimedia that the team releases. Every expedition has photographers and cinematographers that go out to make sure not only do we have data of these animals, but we can actually witness it firsthand, regardless of where you are in the world. And then share it with everybody. Make sure that that's available online, to make sure that people can go to the OCEARCH.org website and visit all that information and get it for themselves, especially the students, making sure that we have all of our curriculum and updated information available to them at any time, as they can do now. The peer-reviewed papers, of course, and then policy engagement. As Dr. Montano mentioned, you want to gather all this information so you can do something with it. So if we can identify sensitive and important areas, those can then be protected. And then it all starts over again. And as we now have that baseline data for where white sharks are going and what they're doing there, it's a lot more easy for scientists to actually further develop more accurate information and more diverse information. So it's been a good step forward in the last few years. And as I mentioned here, we got the STEM programs that are updating. We have everything available to you right now. And this summer, we are going to have updated STEM programs available to the high school level of teachers as well. So it's really cool to see that. We have partners writing that curriculum right now, but lots of fun stuff already available. From some of the classrooms that I've been in this year already, there's been a lot of really fun activities that teachers have done. And one of the greatest resources they're using is the Shark Tracker. Now, the Shark Tracker is one of the most key things that OCEARCH does. It's fun for everybody, super accessible, and it's showing people where the 89 North Atlantic white sharks that have been tagged thus far are going, and then 400 other animals around the world, not just North Atlantic white sharks, but other species of sharks, fish, sea turtles. There's even some alligators in there, so a lot of fun stuff to poke around. One of the fun activities I saw recently from a teacher was having each student actually select a shark off of the shark tracker and then do an interview of this animal. So they'll actually go into the data that's on the shark tracker, take a look at where it was found, how big it was, was it male or female, what their name is, what they were doing there, and then present it to the class. So it was a really fun interactive activity that they came up with there on their own. But there's a lot of other fun activities that we have available to teachers as well. And to take a closer look at some of the other information that's going on there is, for some of our high school students, we can dive a little bit deeper. Rather than just talking about the migration patterns of these animals, we can talk about everything else that scientists are doing with this shark while it's in their care. So we have blood samples, tissue samples, workups of bacterial swabs in the mouth and nasal passages, and they can learn a little bit more about why these are important and what scientists are doing with that. So if there's ever students that want to do an in-depth research paper, but obviously don't have the resources to go out there on the ocean and research and tag a white shark themselves, all that information they can gather through OCEARCH, which is super fantastic. We talk a lot more about the food chain, and the reason we do that is because the North Atlantic white shark is really an ambassador animal and an indicator species for the entire ocean. So we really try to educate students on why the North Atlantic white shark is so key to the entire ecosystem. So at the top of the food chain, they really maintain a balance of everything below them, which of course, for a full-grown white shark like Nagumi, she's primarily going to be eating small marine mammals such as seals, porpoise, dolphin, and then maybe some of the larger fish and squid, such as tuna. And then beyond that, you're going to have your smaller fish, your crustaceans, your clams, even your vegetation, plankton, and algae at the bottom of the food chain. And if the white sharks aren't there to maintain that, the whole thing is sent off balance. So it's really important that we actually conserve, protect, and understand these animals for that reason. We like to really convey that to students. This is a closer look at some of what we've been able to learn about those migration patterns. So as mentioned, in order to protect these animals properly, we have to understand what they're doing, and why they're there. So right now we have a lot of the North Atlantic white sharks are actually off of the Carolina area. So we have our mothership for her 45th expedition is out there right now. They tagged their first white shark of the expedition just last night. She was a 13-foot female, so quite a bit smaller than Nagumi. There's a lot of difference there. Not just 4 feet of length, but it's a whole different animal as they start to grow. At Umi, who was tagged last night, at Umi's stage, she's a very young adult. She's not mature yet, so she's actually not going to be breeding. She's not going to be giving birth, of course, but she's pretty far along in her cycle of growing up to be a white shark, such as Nagumi, to be a grandmother of white sharks on the ocean. So a lot of them are going back up north towards New England and Nova Scotia, where a lot of those big meaty seals and other large food supply is. And then, of course, during the winter, they're going to come back down south. So they're going to be in Georgia, Florida. They're going to be in the Gulf of Mexico. We still have a handful of white sharks leaving the Gulf of Mexico and kind of leisurely heading their way north. And then we have some white sharks that have already made their way to Nova Scotia. I believe it was Ulysses, who's a big boy. He's about 14 feet long. Ulysses is already off of Cape Breton up there by the Bay of St. Lawrence. So these are thousands of miles that these animals are migrating every single year, thousands of miles. And we've been able to better locate some of those exact regions. One of the biggest mysteries we have that the science team is really excited to be close to solving is where these animals are breeding. And from the data that's there thus far, it's suggesting that's probably happening somewhere in the Carolinas region. So if OCEARCH could find any shark and put that on the platform for 15 minutes of research, it's going to be a large adult pregnant female. That would tell so much to the science team and really fill in that gap of information that's missing. So that'd be a really key animal to find. Hopefully we'll see some more sharks in the near future on this expedition. And as I mentioned, we really try to convey to these students that the North Atlantic white shark is imperative to our oceans. They're the indicator species, they're the balance keepers, and they're taking care of the oceans in places and ways that we necessarily are not. So if we lose those sharks, we're going to lose our oceans. And that quote there, that's actually from Dr. Bob Huter. Dr. Huter's been in shark research for decades. He's a leading scientist in that, and he's been on many expeditions with OCEARCH, and it's very cool to have him a part of OCEARCH and do work for us. So really key character there. One of the biggest problems that we have is, really that deficit in information. So it's only in the last 10 years or so that the scientists on board have been able to actually fill in those gaps of data and really give baseline there to where they can actually educate scientists and educate students to really do something with that information. I think my slideshow is just kind of freestyling here and doing a little bit of whatever it wants, which is fun, but not quite what I'm looking to do. That's a quick look at the mothership there. That's MV OCEARCH. She's 125 feet long. She's out at sea right now. You got Dr. Newton, which is our head veterinarian scientist. She's out on board right now. And of course, Chris Fisher, expedition leader, and Captain Brett McBride. They're out there doing real hard work. That's a quick little look at Nagumi there. And I'm going to push through to what we're trying to look at, which of course is the overall holistic approach and global look at what we have going on the shark tracker right now. The main focus right now, of course, is that nice little orange spot, the North Atlantic white shark, but there's data to be learned all around the world. It's in recent years that a lot of people are noticing that there's a white shark population over towards Europe and right inside the actual Mediterranean Sea. And not a whole lot of information is on those. So it'd be really cool in the future to maybe see OCEARCH over there to take a look at that population. And it's really going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us around the world. It's going to take the scientists working together. It's going to take the best fishermen in the world to actually be able to present these animals to the scientists. And it's going to take educators to get out there and, teach up and coming marine biologists and just general students why these animals are important, why they should be protected, and how groups like OCEARCH are researching them.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it really is going to take all of us. And the reason we wanted to work together today was bringing OCEARCH research and showing you how you can actually work with that data. They do have some curriculum, a ton of curriculum actually already available on their website. So if you wanted to check that out today and get a head start for celebrating Earth Day tomorrow, it's www.ocearch.org/education. So make sure you go check it out. I know there's a lot of great resources on there. So thank you, Tim. I'm going to go ahead and pull everybody back in here in a minute. And I'm going to bring in our executive director for Headwaters. So hi, Meg. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. So exciting. It was great to see those talks. They're really interesting, and it's nice to, bring alive some of the research that's happening and get it out there for educational purposes.
So if you can go ahead and just briefly discuss a little bit about why you started Headwaters, because I think it's going to ring for a lot of people watching, as well as the scientists that we have on right now.
Yeah. So, I'm the executive director of Headwaters, and I founded it. I have a PhD in physiology. I was in research, and some people asked me to create some science and outdoor education curriculum. And I just kept finding that we were teaching over and over the same way, but science is a process. So often we're teaching it more like the history of science, memorizing and things. And so how do you connect students with that process? And how do you connect them to what people are actually doing, not just the idea that a scientist is somebody in a white lab coat, do you know what I mean, in the lab pipetting things. And also those things that even if that's what you're thinking of, even if those things that they're pipetting, it means something, right? It's to answer a question. And I just kept hearing from students it's already all been done. And I think when you teach it out of a textbook, that's, a perception that it's all been done. What possibly, you know what I mean, could there be? And so just, trying to connect students with the, opportunity and give them skills, right, for thinking. Because even if they don't want to be a scientist, these are great critical thinking skills. And It allows them to, connect. We take kids outside for our field trips. Since teachers often have a difficult time getting kids outside on their own, one teacher, 30 kids, I'm sure you can relate. You were a classroom teacher.
Yes.
It's really difficult to go do that without some other help. So
exactly. And it's very important. So like Meg was describing, it's not just textbook. It's actually a process. So that's our philosophy and our mission is to foster curiosity in science and get them outside. And it matters because STEM careers are growing. Actually, some of the scientists from OCEARCH, Tim mentioned Dr. Harley Newton, has expressed that there's no one to do her research. Like she's it. So we do need the next generation to start filling in some of those roles. It's also life skills, like Meg had mentioned, asking questions, collecting some data, and coming to drawing a conclusion. You do when you buy a house. You have to look at rates and mortgages and all kinds of stuff. So it's the same kind of skills. And also, I think the biggest thing for OCEARCH as well as Headwaters is we are hoping for those future stewards of the planet, which is why being literate in science is so important. So I'm going to quickly go through a little bit about our process, and then Meg, if you want to jump in at any time, just let me know. So we connect students to the process of science. We mentor them. We assist the teachers and bring in our own mentors. So we have graduate students as well as our staff, and we have a wonderful community of volunteers. And we start by having them ask questions. So students will actually go in on a topic and that we bring, or the teachers decide that they would like to work with through one of the national standards. We get students asking questions of their own design. So not only are they doing research, it's research that they're choosing to do. So it's something that interests them. We help them develop methods. We go out and collect data, which is everybody's favorite day. The amount of quotes we have from students saying, it was so much fun going outside and seeing science differently. We have a ton of quotes about that. So the kids love being outdoors. And even if they might not think they like science, as soon as they go outside to collect that data, they really come alive. And then finally, we work with them to analyze that data and present their findings.
Yeah, we have a collaboration with Data Classroom, which is one of the great ways that we can help students analyze data.
Yes, and we're going to mention Data Classroom a little bit more later because they are the coolest website for data analysis with students. So yeah, we'll definitely be showing a little bit about them. So we do have multitudes of programs that we do. The ones directly related with teachers, we do classroom programs. So anywhere from 1 to 5 class periods, sometimes a little bit more, where we actually support the teacher and facilitate programs for them. And they get to have learn our process, work with our materials as well. And my favorite part about working with the teachers in this capacity is that they are so excited to do the research as well. The teachers are almost as excited as the kids to get back outside and remember that they really love doing this. Because as a teacher, you don't really get to be the student very often and actually get your hands on it. You're guiding students. So it's really fun to watch the teachers get involved too. And we also do professional development trainings where the teachers spend 1 to 3 days with me learning how to do this process and getting to enjoy being a student as well. And we have programs all over the country. We just wrapped one in Pennsylvania. I run some here in Florida. We have them all over California. We're working on expanding into Texas. So we do have programs pretty much everywhere. And what I love about that too is anybody can do science. So no matter where you're located, there's always research to be done, even out in the middle of the ocean like OCEARCH right now. Okay, so our process and how this can relate back to a OCEARCH tracker and things that you can do at home with this information. So like we said, we get students starting to ask questions, right? So OCEARCH tracker has so many sharks on it at this point, all different life stages, males and females. There's even some turtles that you can look at. So anything that you're interested in with sharks, you can use that tracker to analyze and to collect data. And I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second. The other thing that is important to remember about data, like Meg said, it's not always just in a lab, with a pipette or a lab coat. You can get outside, you can work with data sets online, and you can use that information to look for relationships in your data. So we're going to show you how to do that right now. Meg, do you have anything to add with that?
No, I think I get a lot of questions all the time from people that are like, well, I can't go or I don't have access, but this is my question. And, I think these open source data sets, like from OCEARCH or NOAA, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can have access to out there. And so I think it's super important. And, if students need help figuring that out, we are here, we can do that.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's plentiful. I used open source data sets all the time, and pretty much anything that you would like to learn about, there's usually an open source set out there for you that you can find or, locate a scientist to ask about it. So it's definitely very open space for science like nowadays, which is really nice because back in my day, I had to go to the library. So technology growth has been really amazing. And then the last step of our process, in a nutshell, it's obviously a lot more information than this, but this is just a summary, is we do the data analysis and communication of science. Data analysis, from an educator standpoint, is one of the hardest things to teach your kids how to do. We have the materials to teach them, and we have it for all different skill levels as well. So, middle school on up, they're doing data analysis. They're making graphs. I make graphs and do basic data analysis with fourth graders over here. So really anyone can do it, and we make it approachable for them. And I'll share a little bit more about Data Classroom that Meg had mentioned, but we have a partnership with them, and that website makes statistical analysis easy. And it makes it really fun for the kids. They can customize all their stuff. So I'll show you an example of what they do in a minute. All right, so going back to the tracker and what you can do with it. And Tim, I'm going to bring you in case you want to add any information here, because I know we talked about this yesterday and you had some really cool thoughts as well. So Tim, do you want to introduce what this slide is telling or showing everyone?
Yeah, so this is a small piece of the 89 North Atlantic white sharks that have been tagged and studied and continue to be studied. I think this is just 23. And this is data that's just in the last 10 years. Before then, scientists knew nothing. We've got a map that looks just like this, except there's absolutely no migration patterns. There's no information there. So it's just the recent years that they've really been able to gather all this. And again, this is a small piece. As of yesterday, there's 89 North Atlantic white sharks, nearly 3 times as many as what we have here. So we're moving past that goal of having baseline data, and now we're having just much more accurate and varied data. So there's a lot of great information that's coming out of this. And this is really telling the story of what white sharks do throughout their lifetime, and not just showing us the migration pattern, but what they're doing in those regions. So overwintering down in Georgia, Florida, the Gulf, some of them the Carolinas, and then this time of year, heading back up north. It's just been a really fantastic resource, and that's available on everybody's cell phone. These days, a 5-year-old, knows how to operate a cell phone, can download the shark tracker and start to make its own, really, really educated discoveries about what these animals are doing these days, just by downloading an app. And that's really cool. And even on the ship, while we were out there and when I was out there, we're looking at this app, because it is very accurate. It shows you some great information. It's a wonderful resource really for all ages and uses. So it's been great getting that in the classroom and seeing teachers appreciate it.
Yeah. And I can tell you, I was one of those teachers that appreciated it. I used it for 13 years. And, curriculum is still being used in the state of Florida because of that. So there is a ton that you could do with it. And yes, the kids get obsessed with this app. I saw Meg get a little chuckle with the 5-year-old comment. They know how to do it better than us.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun picking out, some sharks that you want to follow and see what they're doing. And kids do. Like, I still have students that reach out to me pretty often, like, hey, did you see where, this shark is? I'm like, yup, because I check it pretty often too.
And when we're out at events and stuff, like last weekend, we had a Tortuga Music Festival in South Florida, which is a big ocean conservation fundraiser where groups like ours go out there. And we get to talk to thousands of people. That's why my voice is all funky today. We talk to thousands of people throughout the weekend who wouldn't necessarily have exposure to information like this. But then again, at the same time, you'll also meet people that are like, wait, I have your app. That's you guys? And then you're like, yeah. And so it's really cool to make that connection with people who are all on their own, using this app, following these animals. And then they're like, oh, OCEARCH does that. And then they go and further look at some of the other things that the organization offers. So it's been fun.
Yeah, and one of those things too that not a lot of people know is that there are map layers on the website. So I tried to highlight it over on the right-hand side, but that bottom little button that literally looks like pieces of paper stacked up, you can select a bunch of different layers. And I selected sea surface temperature. So sea surface temperature for sharks is really important for migration. They are just like us. We don't want it too hot. We don't want it too cold, right? We have our optimal temperatures. And for great whites, that is between 50 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So, and I know, and Tim, you can back me up on this, that this is Captain Brett uses sea surface temperatures to kind of help identify some of their fishing routes. So it's not just, where are they going? We use that information for practical reasons too. So what you can do with this, there's a ton of questions that we can ask. Where is a shark going to be? Maybe in the wintertime. We can use this for the reproduction side, like where are our mating grounds and our birthing sites, the work that Giselle's doing. So looking at that as a whole and all the different sharks, you can just select a shark here and there. And then you can utilize other open source sets. Like Meg already mentioned NOAA. This is one of my other favorite open source sites because you can manipulate it in a bunch of different ways, just like the OCEARCH maps. But what's really cool with this is we can see this is the Gulf Stream, that darker orange color that's just going, like riding up the side of the east coast of the United States here. When you go back and look at the movements of the sharks, they're all hanging out in that Gulf Stream. And that's because this temperature that I'm highlighting here is 79.2 degrees. So it's in that optimal zone for the sharks to hang out. So like I said, using those open source data sets by asking questions and building up your map, like how can you do this? The availability of utilizing the tracker for the OCEARCH and asking questions about sharks is endless for that. It's pretty much a gold mine. You can also look at seafloor features. They like to hang around certain features. A lot of times they don't move past the shelf, a continental shelf. So you can also analyze their movements that way and see how they interact with seafloor features. Currents, like I said, the opportunities are just endless. Tim, do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, I mean, even for students, classrooms, and just generally people who don't necessarily have a peak interest in the marine science, but maybe even just like the geology, the oceanography of things, like Jen was saying there, these water temperatures and especially the water, the structure of things happening underwater, the geography there is super key. One of my favorite things out on expedition was looking closely at the maps when we are in a fishing location and seeing everything that goes on there, because then you start to understand, what the scientists and what Captain Brett are really looking for as like the perfect spot that a white shark is going to come to, and really, taking the data of where these white sharks are there and putting down gear in really specific locations that are going to be successful. So I got a very good feeling about this expedition. It's been very successful so far. And I'll be happy to see them take all this information and meet a bunch of new sharks.
Yes, I'm very excited. And the fact that you already announced one was pretty cool too.
More on the way.
More on the way. Fingers crossed.
More on the way.
Giselle those samples. We'll have Giselle on board when that happens. So again, so one of the final pieces that we do is we teach kids how to do data analysis. So you can collect all the data that you want, but you have to analyze it to find relationships within the data. So we are partnered with Data Classroom, like we said a couple of times. And this is a screenshot of one of our research experience students. So, you know, traditionally, middle high school kids will make a bar graph, a line graph, because that's what they're taught in school to do. These kinds of analysis is beyond what kids are generally taught unless they're taking an AP statistics class. And what Data Classroom does is it helps them create these graphs and includes all of the math for them. So they will be able to find those relationships within their data to start telling the story of what their information is telling them. So we do have a program, I just talked about the research experience, where we have kids fully going through a research project from start to finish with a mentor that is working in a STEM field. We normally will have them working with someone in the STEM field that does the similar research to what they're doing. So it makes it even more valuable. And my favorite part is that at the end of the program, not only do they present their research live on YouTube, they also are published on our website. So they get published. They have other opportunities to be published in other places that we help them with. So not only are they learning the process, but they're going to be published while they are still in high school, which I think is pretty amazing. Meg, did you want to add anything with that?
No, I mean, it's a great experience. They get to do a public presentation and submit their paper for publication. So I think it's a unique experience.
It really is. So at this point, you know, I kind of stole the slide from Tim a little bit. But yeah, it is going to take us all, which is why we're having these conversations here for Earth Day. Earth Day is a great opportunity for people to remember that we are responsible for this planet. So working with collaborative efforts is super important. So looking at the research that OCEARCH is doing and the work that we do with students, as well as OCEARCH, their education program, really are making science accessible to everyone. So with that, we're going to go ahead and see if there's any questions. Okay, so how is climate change impacting sharks? So Tim, Giselle, do you have thoughts?
Well, excuse me. I can say that if the ocean temperature is changing, the water surface is changing in temperature, that can affect the migratory pattern of these sharks. So they might not go. They might go further north. They might not come so much to the south. It's something that we don't know. And how we are going to calculate, how we will know for sure that there will be a change, only if we know how they are right now. And this is what we are doing. So this is why we need this database, this baseline. How are they doing today? Because tomorrow, if it changes, we only will know if we know how they are today.
Yeah. And what about like ocean acidification? Because that's also a part of, you know, our changing climate.
I think that will be like a domino. It's going to be like a chain reaction, you know, with the water, with acidification is going to affect more the unicellular beings, and then it's going to affect, you know, plankton, phytoplankton, and zooplankton, and then it's going to be a chain reaction, and it's going to affect each one of the layers in the food chain until it reaches the sharks.
So I guess this is for Tim and Giselle. What is the most challenging part of working with great white sharks?
I think coming from my perspective, being part of the Marine Corps originally, it's you know, a matter of maintaining fishing gear in a proper way. There's times where that fishing gear can fail if it's not done in the right way, and you need the best possible opportunity that if a shark comes and takes your gear, that you're able to return it to the mothership so people like Dr. Montano can do what they need to do. So really that's kind of the biggest challenge, is making sure that when there is a shark in the area, that you take every step and every opportunity possible to make sure that that animal safely gets into the hands of the scientists. And then maybe then you can kind of further elaborate on what it's like from the science perspective.
I think that what is challenging is the time frame that we have. We don't have a lot of time to work on the animal. We make sure that every time we have an animal on the platform, we are done in 15 minutes or less, 13 minutes, 14 minutes. I think that's a challenge. So we need to make sure that all the scientists, we talk to each other, we know who is going to go on the platform first, second, third, who is going to do what, and which part of the body and the shark. So then, okay, I'm going to be on your right, I'm going to be on your left, and then later I'm going to move. So I need to do the ultrasound. I'm going to the whole body. Am I going to bother you? Do you want to get the sample first and I go second? So the challenge is to organize and then to be able to do it quickly and with success. So get a blood sample, but you got to get it, like you have seconds and you have one try, two tries, and then otherwise like, oh, okay, you're done. It's like, no, we gotta make it happen. So it's very challenging, but I think we're not like nervous or stressed or anything. We're just really focused on what we are doing. This is very nice. We all know what we are doing and how to do it. So if we have it organized, it happens and we get it done. And then we have somebody with a list, checking, is this done? Is this the other done? And then it happens. We make it happen somehow.
The first time you see that process, it kind of seems like chaos because there's people scrambling and moving around to different parts of the shark. But after like your third, fourth time of seeing a shark work up, you realize how calm and organized it really is. And at times, super quiet. Like it's super quiet on the platform at times where all you hear is just like the trickle of the shark hose, making sure the shark is getting its water, or its oxygen through the water, of course. So it's really kind of fun in your early days with OCEARCH to see that of like, it's like, oh, this is crazy. This is exciting to this is calm. This is efficient. This is organized and almost relaxing and quiet.
Yeah. It's like a pit crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So we actually have a question for you because we like to get career information from everyone. So, how did you both get started studying sharks? And also like what path did you maybe take to get there?
So I did not want to study sharks. I, as a Brazilian and Mexican, I thought I was going to study animals like from the jungle, and that's not what I do at all. So I study now aquatic animals. I do have projects like with rhinos, elephants, polar bears. I had penguins, like other species. So this is why this has been just a surprise from life and sharks. I didn't really know much about marine life in general. So every time I study and I learn about a new species, I'm just so excited and I learn everything I can. So I really like that part too, It's all a surprise from life. So I am a veterinarian. I did my master's degree in Texas A&M, and I studied reproduction. So what I really like is reproduction. It doesn't matter the species. And I think that in sharks, when I started working with sharks, because we have sharks at SeaWorld, I really liked it. And I really like the people that works with sharks. Still, everywhere I go, I think like they are the best. So it's easy to keep in the field where everybody is interested. Everybody wants you to study the sharks. Everybody facilitates your life. Yeah, no, we can do this. We can do this. Oh, okay. So then I'll stay here. And there's so much we don't know about them that I do want to contribute and I do want to study them. So to advance science.
I got my start in a very different way. I was actually living in Savannah, Georgia, working on an eco tour boat. We actually looked at dolphin each day. And that's kind of what got me to take a greater interest in marine life, was seeing some of the same Atlantic bottlenose dolphin day to day over several years. I got to see these dolphin grow up, have children and raise those children and watch those children grow up. And it made me so much more curious about, what was going on underwater and various other animals that were out there. And we were out on the water one day, and I saw the OCEARCH mothership cruise by. And I'd followed OCEARCH for years and, watched all the media and everything they did and bought hats and T-shirts and what have you. And thought to myself, well, maybe that's the boat I need to be on. And I had not long after given my phone number to the Captain Dave, and let him know, like, hey, if you ever need crew, let me know. And, about a year later, he gave me a call and he's like, hey, are you still interested? We need a guy. And I said, of course. He said, well, can you be here tomorrow? So I wasn't going to make an excuse. I said, yep. So I packed a bag, ran over to a shop and bought myself some boots, and was on the boat the next day for Expedition Carolinas 2021, and did 4 expeditions after that, and spent a lot of time, on the vessel and doing repairs, maintenance, that kind of work, and learning everything I can from the scientists like Dr. Montano and Mickey from Ocean First. We did a lot of work with them with BRUVs and eDNA sampling, and learned a lot about that. And just helping and learning in whatever way I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like, when you least expect it, I think your paths are like pretty similar to other stories that we've heard where they're like, well, I thought I was going to do this, and then I landed over here in left field. So
yeah, I always say, like, you have to be open to opportunities because you don't know what is going to happen. You just don't know. But if you know what you like, I like reproduction, I like animals, I like wild animals, I like conservation. So now, like, I want to study sharks now. I do, So life is just dynamic.
It really is
changing.
Got to seize the moment. So we'll end on this note. This is all for Earth Day and being part of the story of conservation and making the world a better place. So Headwaters and OCEARCH both have really cool programs that you can be involved with. So Meg, do you want to tell them a little bit about the Headwaters opportunities for involvement? And then we'll end with OCEARCH, you guys telling us about yours.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, if you're a teacher, you can get in contact and we'll figure out how to help you in your classroom one way or another, whether it's, through an in-person program or with, accessing our library and curriculum. If you're a parent, we have a lot of extracurricular activities and camps and research programs. So I think there's a lot there as well. And if you're on the science end, we're always adding to our library. So we have a bunch of the scientist library, like Giselle did a talk for. That's a great way to help in education because, it's used by anyone across the world. And Jen writes curriculum to go with it that matches the national science standards. And that's, you can get in touch through the info or we have a volunteer application on our website. And that's another way is volunteering in the field with us through our on our website with our volunteer application, because you can learn a lot. I think like, they were saying just getting out and getting involved. So it's not too late. Like you can come help us on a field day, be an adult and help the students, kind of stay with the scientist and learn a lot yourself. And then who knows, maybe there's future opportunity.
Yeah. And what's cool with the volunteer program too, is like Meg said, it's not too late. You don't have to have a science background if you just want to be an adult and get outside and help kids with science as another set of eyes. And you can learn too, which also is really fun. Awesome. All right, OCEARCH. So Tim's education ambassador, man, you want to tell them a little bit about things that you guys have to offer?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to kind of expand what we can do with volunteers. So if you're looking to get involved, it'd be nice to see more education ambassadors, especially teachers,
Yes.
Current teachers that can really take some of this curriculum, some of the STEM projects and put it straight into the classroom with help from OCEARCH, of course, with myself and my leader, Alex, as well. So we would love to see that. But also just make sure you come out and see us at events. We were out at Tortuga just last weekend. We're going to be coming up at SharkCon. We're making a big return to SharkCon this year, which is going to be really fun. I've got some fun ideas for that. Come out, say hello. I know Dr. Montano is going to do a great talk at SharkCon this year. I know I'm looking forward to watching that. We're going to be at FinFest later this year in Jacksonville as well, which is another conservation concert. So come out and see us at the events, say hello. we'll be providing also volunteer opportunities on the website and reaching out for that. But if you're a student who wants to be, a marine biologist, a veterinarian, a scientist, we do have close partnerships with Jacksonville University. We actually have a facility being built down in Jacksonville to house our mothership in the future, to have an on-site laboratory, which is fantastic. And we've also seen several students from University of Virginia as well. We had an intern with us about a year and a half ago that ended up spending 2 expeditions with us. And they took over several scientist projects who couldn't be there. So they actually came in to research one thing, which was actually the life expectancy of tags, and ended up doing multiple other projects. So look into that through your university, local institute. And for students that are looking to be one of those interns, you want to come up with a problem. You want to come up with an idea, a hypothesis, something to present to your professors and OCEARCH. This is what I want to learn, and this is why OCEARCH is the only place I can do it. So take a look at those ideas.
Yeah, and Headwaters can help you do that.
Also, Jacksonville University has a summer camp as well. Like, I know Headwaters has these upcoming summer camps, which is really cool.
Yes.
I'm going to be coming out to at least one of those. And then Jacksonville University, our partner, does a summer camp as well, which focuses on sampling marine life. So look at these summer camps, and those are also fantastic opportunities.
Yes, exactly. And so the number one question I would always get asked when I would do some stuff with OCEARCH is how to get involved. And it's just put yourself out there and get involved. So
show up. Yeah, show up, say hello.
Ask. Most of the time, neither one of our organizations is going to turn you away right away. You'll get an answer. So just ask and reach out. So again, we're info@headwaterscienceinstitute.org, or you can email education@ocearch.org, or email us both and see, how we can work together to help you create your own research project, even if you're still in high school or even middle school. So we're here to help. We need you guys to be the future of our planet, and we appreciate you taking the time to watch today. You want to watch again on Earth Day to get the actual Earth Day experience, that's great. Just wanted to make this available today for teachers if they needed it, because they are the voice for our kids. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Giselle and Tim and Meg, for joining me on this presentation. And, just reach out. Don't be scared. So thanks.